now let's look at an example where we have the raw data and we need to develop the sample summary statistics ourselves, like n sub 1 and p bar sub 1 and so on, and then want to build a confidence interval. Okay, so here we have two call centers and we are trying to figure out how many calls are answered within 20 minutes. So if a call is answered within 20 minutes, then it is recorded as Y. If it is not, it is recorded as N. So we want the proportion of calls that are recorded, that are answered within 20 seconds. So Y is equal to, if you have a Y, that means the call was indeed answered within 20 seconds, and P sub 1 will be the proportion of calls answered within 20 seconds for call center 1, and same proportion for call center 2 will be P sub 2. And N sub 1 is sample size for call center 1, N sub 2 sample size for call center 2. Then P bar sub 1 and P bar sub 2 are the sample proportion of calls answered within 20 seconds. So let's define all of those. Okay, so what is Y? P sub 1 for the two call centers, N sub N for two call centers, and P bar. Okay. Now sample size is easy. So let's see whether we have equal sample sizes. So there are both equal sample sizes. So let's give a name for these two columns. Okay, so highlight the whole thing, including the label, and then we can do create from selection. So uncheck the left column because these are characters. It's trying to name the one on the right with these labels. So uncheck that. Leave top row. Now the top row is taken as the name for the rest of them. So now sample size will be, so now we need to use count A. Count will only count numerical values. So we have to use count A of call center 1 and count A of call center 2 will be the sample size for the second center. Now number of Y calls, okay, there are a couple of ways in which you can do this, and the easiest way is to use count if. So use count if the range and the criteria. Range is call center 1 and the criteria is, put quotation marks and say since we want to count Y, we count that. If it was a numerical value and you want to count if it is greater than, so suppose if the actual time taken is recorded, then you have to count all the calls that was less than or equal to 20 seconds. So you would put within quotation mark less than or equal to 20. Do the same here. Use count if. Now use call center 2 and then Y. Now point estimates would be number of Y calls divided by the sample size. Let's make that the percentage. Copy that here. You get P sub 2. Now point estimate is P sub 1 minus P sub 2. Now standard error of estimate is square root of P bar sub 1 times 1 minus P bar sub 1 divided by N sub 1 plus P bar sub 2 times 1 minus P bar sub 2 divided by N sub 2. That is the standard error we want 97% confidence interval. So you say 97%. So alpha is 1 minus that. We really don't need these three cells. You can go straight here. You remember you need to go 1 minus alpha over 2. So now we're just computing 1 minus alpha over 2 first. 1 minus alpha over 2. And then see, remember we have to since the right side tail value is what we want, we have to come up with the cumulative probability and then use norm dot s dot inv for that probability. So that will give us the z table value. So z alpha over 2 is, remember, is the z table value. Then you multiply z with the standard error and you get the margin of error. You take the point estimate for the difference minus margin of error and then take the point estimate for the difference plus margin of error, and that gives us the upper limit. Now we do the interpretation. We are 97% confident that the difference in the population proportion of calls answered within 20 seconds will be within these two limits.